Hello everybody and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And today we're just going to be playing a solo game of Axis and Allies Europe. This is the offering from 1999 from Avalon Hill, and so we're going to have some fun doing this. I typically see an Allied victory. I think the last one I had a German victory, but I typically see an Allied victory. Essentially because tanks, as great as they are on offense in this game, they only defended a 2 on defense. And they only cost 5, so there's a bit of a balance there. But the Germans, even though they can get to Moscow sometimes, typically there's so much Russian stuff, they've been chewed up by the time they get there. In the games I've played. Maybe I'm playing it poorly or differently or something. But I also send a lot of British air power into Russia. If you don't know, the British and the Americans, anytime they can get planes or any ground forces, anything into the Soviet Union, at the end of the Soviet player's turn, the Soviet player can change those things into Soviet units. Now, sometimes that's a good idea, because then on the attack they can bring more things than what they've just been able to build. But sometimes it's also good to have those Allied units in there to maneuver to where they're needed on the Allied turn. But it's a risk either way. But I think it's a neat idea, kind of mimicking Lend-Lease. So I saw a video a while ago of somebody playing this game, and they did something that they thought balanced it out nicely and gave the Germans a bit more of a chance. And that is simply a timeline. And in that this game is obviously pre-invasion of the Soviet Union. We're not even into East Poland yet. That's this one here. Okay, so we're sitting in the third week of June in 1941. Well, as we know, America wasn't in the war yet. And that's, obviously they have a very meager supply of military units. But because they're not in the war yet, we have it so that America cannot do any attacking or leave its shores or anything until turn 2. So that gives a 1-turn respite. Now, you can still, as the Germans, take your submarines and kill this stuff on round 1, and then the Americans, of course, are in the war. But typically then, I'm assuming, I've never played this rule before, but I'm assuming then that you go after the British destroyers and then try to convoy them as much as you can before America comes calling. So we'll see how that goes. So America's not going to be in the war, not going to be building anything until round 2. Okay. All right, so let's see how it goes here. I am going to have a singular goal of going after Moscow and just trying to get that and hold it for a turn. Now, or till the end of the turn anyway. That's what you have to do according to the rules. Now, there's also, if you're not familiar with this game, getting into the Middle East, you can see there's 8 oil points here, and on the national production chart, you can see there's a chart right there in the middle of the frame, the Middle East. So essentially, for every point that the Germans have here, one of the Allied players has to reach into his own bucket and take the money out and give it to the German player. So it's kind of a double whammy for the Allies. Not only are the Germans going up $1, you're going down $1. So, all right, we will do round 1 and let you know how it goes. Of course, son the Americans, and we'll see if it was a good idea. Okay, at the end of round 1, heading into round 2, we'll take a look at what's going on here, and you can see that the Germans were successful with their assault in north, center, and south, and the Soviets have just marshaled up a lot of infantry to rush to the front and just built the 8 infantry. It's a pretty typical build at the start there into Moscow. And I didn't send over any planes this time because they were used back here, because the Germans had a lot of success, as you can see, with their submarines. These are 2 new destroyer builds. So the only destroyer left on the map in the Atlantic is that one there that had to go in and kill a sub. So the planes were needed here, and so they couldn't get over to the Soviet Union, unfortunately. Here down in Africa, the Germans just brought over a tank and a man and moved in the Tunisian units into Libya. And the British are just holding on here. There's not really a lot for them to do. You can choose to pile everything up here, but then you're probably going to lose everything. You can keep things scattered a little bit. You can retreat back, but the Germans can just bring more stuff over. So there's really not an awful lot of decisions to be made. Now, making a command decision here because this guy just blends in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he can move into Egypt and possibly exact a couple of casualties. Yeah, so the Soviets have brought all their stuff here and are ready for a counterattack. We got their 5 tanks on the board that can all reach into Belarusia and Ukraine if needed. So ready to give the Wehrmacht what for if they need to. And we've seen the Atlantic already. We have the British being convoyed for 3, another 5 here. And this guy here had come up and he survived the battle with the British destroyer and transport. They did lose one U-boat up there though. All right, and you can see the German planes are a little out of position here, but that's what happens when you have to fight the British Navy. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. Fairly typical opening. The Germans did have a lot of success versus the British Navy though. They did lose a bunch of subs, but making the British spend their entire first build on a couple of boats really slows down the threat of Operation Overlord. Okay, here we go. Round 2 coming up. Let's see what happens here on the Eastern Front. Round 2 is done, and a couple of very interesting things, and mostly bad for the Germans. So the Soviets marshaled everything they could from Belarus and Ukraine for infantry, and then every tank they had up in Russia and in the Caucasus, and their aircraft, and they went into East Poland, and there were 12 German tanks, a man, and artillery, so 14 units. And they went in and they smoked them in 2 rounds. And the Germans got a good number of hits back, but yeah, this is what's remaining. And Leningrad was taken by the Germans, but they only had 3 tanks left in there. So the Russians up top, up in Russia, the infantry and a couple artillery decided to go into Leningrad and took that back. You can see the British have dropped off a couple of aircraft in Leningrad and then a bomber in Moscow. So it looks a little bleak for the Germans right now because the Russians are holding firm in both Leningrad and definitely in Moscow. Moscow, they've got about, I guess about 16 infantry and some planes come in. And yeah, they're going to be losing these tanks this turn, obviously, in Ukraine, and things aren't going too well for them in that sense. The Germans did build a bomber, and I built another sub. That's not a great use of money, I think, but as long as there's at least a couple or 3 subs out on the map, the British have to keep making sure that there are destroyers. So that's what we did. And down here in Africa, that plane that came over did not do well at all. So the Germans lost 3 infantry, taking out the units that were in Egypt. The door is kind of open here now. I decided to put the infantry off the coast and in the areas that cost 2. So that will keep the Germans having to fight without the use of their battleships. Sorry, this guy's in the wrong spot. Yeah. Over here, the Germans have been cleaned out of the convoys. They actually came in here and destroyed the American transport and destroyer. So the British sent one over there, or 2 guys over there, 2 destroyers, lost one. And then the destroyer from the British convoy came up and took care of that convoy. So the Americans then were just able to build transports. And of course, they will be starting to shuttle things over and put some pressure on the Germans from the west. So on the face of it here, just after 2 turns, the Germans are kind of up against it. We're going to see. There isn't anything left here for the Soviets, though. So once this is gone, they just got a bunch of infantry. Decent economy, though. So we'll see what the Germans come up with here to answer and hopefully prolong the war a little bit because This really hurt, losing their 12 tanks. That was, the whole first build was 8 tanks. So, yeah, that hurts. They did build another 4 tanks here, and the bomber and the sub was the rest of their money. But we're going to take back East Poland. And not sure what I'm going to do with all this infantry here, because if you put it too close to where the tanks and all this aircraft can get to it, that disintegrates, and all of a sudden the door to Moscow is wide open. So these are choices we have to make. And sometimes you make the right one, and sometimes you make a poor one. So as the old saying goes in football, some days you're the dog, some days you're the hydrant. So, all right, moving on. With turn 3, really interested to see what happens here on the Eastern Front. And here come the Yanks. Okay, here we are, round 4 coming up, and a little bit of gerrymandering going on. And in the south here, the Germans were able to impose their will on the Ukrainians. And East Poland, of course, was taken back, but not without loss. Lost a couple of infantry in there. Baltic states held firm, as did the troops in the north. But the Soviets have decided to abscond with the UK planes, and so they've taken them. So now they've got 3 fighters and 2 bombers that can wreak some real havoc, along with the scads of infantry that they have. And they have 16 infantry in Moscow right now, and I think another 7 in Leningrad, a couple in Archangel, just a couple in Stalingrad. Probably not long for this world, but with that kind of air power, they might be able to do some serious damage. Over here, the Americans have brought their stuff over, including a bomber and a fighter, so that's more that could be flown over next turn if Leningrad is indeed still in Soviet hands, which it probably won't be. I think these tanks and all this infantry that are adjacent to Leningrad are going to spell the end of the Leningrad contingent. But that's another turn that the Soviets will have to bulk up and get some more things going. The American bomber, of course, could fly all the way to Moscow, which it very well might. Down here, the Germans had some good dice, took no losses, and were able to grab half the oil fields now. So $4 from the Americans this last turn for, so that's 10% of the American economy went to the Germans because of the oil, and there's really nothing else that can go on here. So I'm just split them up so that they do have to attack both. If I put them both in Iraq, then the infantry just walk in to Iran. And if I put them both in Iran, then the tanks can blitz through Iraq anyway. So not really an awful lot of options available to the Allies. And the Germans built more tanks, built another bomber. Or no, they didn't. That was the last round. More tanks, a couple of men, and another U-boat. That's what we built. But the Allied fleet is looking to become a little too big for the naval power here. So this is actually becoming quite interesting. That last round I thought Germany was done for, but they were able to position themselves in such a way that they can really bring a lot of force to bear here, especially against Leningrad, and then they can start building in Leningrad. And unlike a lot of these types of games, when Leningrad falls, that's pretty much it. You're not working hard as the Russians to take it back, because then the existential threat coming through Belarusia is keenly felt. And you'll want to stay informed and typically protect Moscow. So that's where we're at. We got a bit of an Atlantic wall here. Not a ton of stuff, but enough to force the Allies to build up a bit more before they attempt a landing, which gives the Germans a little bit of time. Not as much as they'd probably want, but we'll see what they can pull off. Round 4 coming up. Should be fun. Turn 4 is done, and look at this. Leningrad has changed hands again, and the Germans are pushing into the south. Got into the Caucasus, and they've almost got all the oil fields now. Didn't lose anything either. So looking a little bleak there. Brought the Air Force back to East Poland, and 6 tanks that were made last turn are there. Didn't take Stalingrad, though. I went for the big payoff of the $4. So the Russians are now down to 13 bucks, and that seemed a bit more crucial than Stalingrad. And let's see, what do we got down here? We brought the German battleship and destroyer here, so now they're in range of the mid-Atlantic, so that could be a problem, so got to be careful about that. But up north, you can see the British landed with 4 units here in Norway, and the Americans followed up with 6 more. And we've got a little bit more stuff coming here now sitting in Iceland, as that was the only real safe spot to go because of the German bombers here. They could reach all the way to here, and they can reach to here, but they can't reach to there and land anywhere. So that seemed to be a smart course of action. Germans built more tanks and some men here, realizing that the landings will begin shortly. And even this next turn, of course, they could land these 10 units. And that could be a problem. So the Germans have to remember to build some stuff for here. And this is how you slow down the German push towards Moscow, is now we're threatening here. I can't just build stacks of tanks and send them out because, well, first of all, I can't build enough to offset what the Allies can bring. And secondly, then, the numbers of tanks and other material headed eastwards is diminished a little bit. So the Germans have got to get on it right away here. And so likely going into Belarusia, but they don't have much for stuff that can take hits for them. We have basically tanks, lots and lots of tanks, but tanks, that's it. And the Russians only have the 3 aircraft, but quite a wall of infantry there. So it will be an interesting finish. Another 6 tanks coming along afterwards. So it's still anybody's game. But here, after 4 turns, I think it's really been very interesting thus far. And yeah, we recalled the German Air Force up from Egypt have come back here. And we'll see if it can't play a role in something this next round. I don't think anything's really within range, but yeah, we'll see if we can give it a fun job to do. All right, so that's where we're at now. The Americans just building some more here. Didn't spend all the money, just spent 30 bucks and saving 10, so we're going to be headed back over. That's where we are, folks. Heading into turn 5, and the Soviets are just down, building 4 men a turn pretty much now. They'll probably build 3 men and an artillery, just they have a little bit of punch, but pretty meager reinforcements coming in. So wish them luck. We also have the Germans with 3 subs. But the fighters I put here, if I would have left them in Poland, actually no, it wouldn't matter now because Norway's gone, so couldn't hit that fleet. So, you know, should I hit this fleet with 3 subs and 2 bombers? Well, it might be worth it to take 1 shot and see how it goes. But after that, I mean, yeah, we'll see. Or should I wait for these guys to get up there? All these choices. I'll let you know in just a moment. Okay, heading into turn 6, and I'm thinking this is probably going to be an Allied victory, but there is one thing that could happen that could thwart that, so we're just going to talk about it here. Yes, there were all the tanks and a couple artillery in Belarus for the Germans, but the Soviets came in with their 21 infantry and artillery, the fighter and 2 bombers, and they were able to dispatch the Germans. And the Germans have a little bit of a counter, probably be able to take this. They've got an artillery in Stalingrad. They've got 6 tanks here, a couple of men. So they should be able to take Belarusia back. And again, the Russians only collected 12 bucks last turn, so they're not doing so well. But hey, here come the Allies. Look at this. And looks like they're going to be able to take Karelia back and start putting direct pressure on Leningrad. Now, I haven't been building anything in Leningrad, and I didn't build anything in Stalingrad this turn, which is kind of silly. You can see that they own everything here now. So we're, yeah, it's just inevitable that the Germans are going to be putting pressure on Russia again. But they do have quite a fleet here. I built a battleship, and it's a good thing I did that I built that battleship a couple turns ago, because I did hit it with the 3 U-boats and the 2 bombers, and I actually got 3 hits. And so 1 on the battleship and 2 destroyers got killed, but then we killed all 3 of the U-boats. So I retreated my bombers back, and then I built a destroyer with the British this turn, beefed it up a little bit, knowing that these guys were going to come up this way. So they're now within range, and I brought all the fighters back. So this is probably going to be gone. Okay, now we do have some more American stuff coming this way. Okay, and the British have some stuff on the continent here. Not a ton of stuff, but some stuff. So we'll see what happens. I actually, I forgot to do it. I do have 2 of these didn't bring anything over, and I was absolutely going to do that. There was 1 of these, and 3 infantry were going to come over. And I neglected to do that. I had actually planned it out, and I forgot to do that. I thought, why are there so few troops there? There we go. All right. That looks a little bulked up now for the Brits. Okay, so they are going to be coming to the rescue here, but they're walking, not too quickly. And we'll see if they're in time. That's a few turns away, 1, 2, 3, 4 from actually getting to Moscow. So if all of this gets zorched by the German Air Force and these 2 boats here, then that will certainly put the kibosh on the Allied war effort here. But again, the Germans don't have much going for them. But then they can start just focusing on tanks again, as there isn't a threat of any big landing, and they can start getting a steady stream of tanks going. They're making typically around 49 to 51 bucks a turn, and then they get the $8 from typically the Americans. So they're close to 60 bucks a turn. That would be 12 tanks. So let's call it 11 tanks they could put on next round if they wanted to focus on armor. And a couple of builds of 11 tanks moving this way, and yeah, Russia's in a world of hurt. So the Allies can't afford to lose this fleet. I guess we'll see what happens with this this battle. Looking pretty good for the Germans, though. I built another bomber, and like I say, I brought back all the air power. I might use a couple here, though, because these guys get a bunch of lucky hits, and pretty soon it's all for naught. Okay, interesting times ahead. Here we are, coming into turn 6. Will this fleet survive? Time will tell. Okay, just a quick interjection here. We call this an insert in filmmaking. Yeah, the Germans have failed miserably in this battle. So here in the second round, because hardly anybody got any hits in the first round, it was very, very choppy. The British, this guy, he's actually damaged right now, but I'll be retreating the Germans. So the Germans got a grand total of 3 hits. That's with a battleship, a destroyer, 3 bombers, and 4 fighters. 3 hits in the first round. Okay? And the British got a few more hits. And then here we did this last round, and this is what the 5 transports just rolled against the Germans. And the Germans did not get any more hits. This was probably one of the most lopsided, that's from the first round, one of the most lopsided battles I've seen in my entire life. So the Germans, you know what? I think I might even keep going, because to retreat, it means nothing. But if I keep going and win this and actually survive, maybe I can take out the Allied fleet. So I'm going to keep going. You're going to see it here in real time. So here we go. We got the Bismarck doing its thing here. And if that's the hood, this will turn out well for the Germans. So here's the Germans at 4. Okay, so that's going to be a hit. That'll sink the British battleship, which fires back at a 4. No, that is it. So the 2 battle wagons go to the bottom. And all we have now left is a transport fleet. And the Germans did not build any boats this turn. So we do have this battle here and this battle here. But now the Allies can land unabated anywhere along the coast. There are still 2 German fighters left here, but after that roll of 4 ones out of 5 dice, ugh, you get a little gun shy. Well, we'll finish off this turn 6, and see if the Germans should continue the struggle. Okay, so here we are, turn 7, and this is probably it. This is going to be the last attempt, I think, by the Germans to take Moscow. You can see some American aircraft have made it over there. And if the Germans can come in here and take it and hold it this turn, well, of course, as you know, that is the game. Because this stuff is not close enough. Now, there are a couple of tanks that could make it in, but then these Germans, these 3 infantry here, and probably these planes are going to make sure this isn't around and it's blocked so that the tanks can't come in. So what I can hit it with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we've got 6 more tanks, so that's 11 tanks and 2 infantry. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. And but if I wait any longer, all this stuff moves in and then it's over. There's no chance. Now, I actually did build my 11 tanks last turn. That's one of them. That's 2 of them. And then the other 9 were built there, which is too much for them. We can see the steady movement here, but I think they're a day late and a dollar short. And you can see the steady stream of transports. I did build a couple of aircraft, a couple of fighters for the Americans. We're going to fly them over and try to get them over in time, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we're going to do this last battle, and whoever wins this wins the game. Okay, for your viewing pleasure here, we're going to roll out this last battle, and I've decided to bring one fighter this way. I'm only bringing one that way, and we'll do this last, because if this fails, this has no bearing on anything. So this is the last gasp of the Wehrmacht, I think. Now, of course, these tanks are going to be here at the end of this turn. I'll build something in Leningrad so the tanks can't blitz, but if this doesn't... there's actually a lot of moving parts here. Maybe I shouldn't give up quite so soon, but we'll see what goes on. Okay, so right off the bat, we do have the anti-aircraft gun shooting at the lone fighter coming in. Okay, so that's all right there. Now we have 2 infantry at 1 for the Germans. Nothing there. And then we do have our 11 tanks here and a fighter. So that is 12 dice at 3. So I'll do 6 dice twice. I don't have my small dice with me right now. So we got 3 hits. Gonna need more than that. Gonna need more than that. That's not more. That's the same. All right. So 6 hits then are going on to these folks here. All right, so now we got 3 bombers at 1. Oh, could have been somebody. And then we have 7, 8, 9, 10. I believe that's 7. I just got to make sure, but oh, maybe it's 7 total infantry. So 7, 8, 9. So we have 9, and we got 9 dice. 9 dice at 2. Oh, we got 4 hits. So that's a little bit better than what they should have gotten. So 4. And then, of course, we've got the 2 fighters. 2 fighters. And 2 more hits. Okay, so 6 hits per side. So we'll take off the Soviets first. And since this is for keeps, we are going to get rid of those expensive bombers. And then 1, 2, 3 infantry. And then we got 6 hits on the Germans. So that's 2 infantry and 4 tanks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there we go. All right, so what do we have left here? We have got 6 at 2 and 2 at 4 versus 8 at 3. Yeah, slightly with the Germans on this one, but we shall see. The more hits they take, the better the odds are for the Russians, if they keep equaling out the hits, of course. So we have 6, 7, 8 at 3. 8 at 3. This is the roll of the game, folks. Oh, it's a little anticlimactic. They got exactly 4, which is what they should have gotten. So 4 hits. 4 hits there. All right, now we have 6 at 2. 2 hits. That's exactly what they should have gotten. But then we've got 2 more at 4. Oh, only one that time. So that could be a difference maker. So we're going to clear off these 4 Soviets. And then we've got 3 hits here. So I'm going to take out the red chip and put in 3 white chips. Kind of a messy game today, but I just felt like not being too neat about the whole thing. So now we are down to 6 here. That's not right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because I took out the red. We got 3 hits. Oh boy, I gotta pause this. Okay, we went back and watched the film, and we realized, yes, we are down to 4 tanks and 1 fighter. So, and we had equal numbers, so yes, we should be 1 up because the Germans only got 3 hits against them while the Soviets got 4. All right, so here we go. This is now 5 dice at 3 versus 2 dice at 2 and 2 dice at 4. 5 at 3. So it's 1, 2, 3. All right, well, we'll kill the American fighter. So they really need 4 hits if they want to have a shot at this. They really need 4 hits. 2 at 2. 1 hit. And 2 at 4. 2 hits. So they got 3 hits. Well, they're making a go of it. They're making a go of it. But we are down to 2 at 3 versus 1 at 4. 2 at 3. And that'll do it. 1 at 4. Don't even have to lose a plane on this one. So that's it. So the Germans are going to take that. So now we're going to roll this one out here. Now the Germans must win this one because all they've got in here is 1 guy. Right? Just 1 guy. So if the Russians can hold on to this, then the 2 British tanks can come rolling through. So it's not over quite yet. This fighter is going to land in Leningrad just in case something. Actually, that's probably dumb. Probably landed there. Okay, so here we go. We have 3 at 1 and 1 at 3 versus those 2. 3 at 1 and 1 at 3. Okay, well, we got 1 hit versus 2 at 2 by the Russians. No hits. Okay, so we're going to take 1 Russian off. Not looking good for the Russians. So 3 at 1, 1 at 3. And the 1 got the hit. So that seals the fate, folks. And a roll. Oh, man. 0 for 3 for those Russians. And just to make it all official here, put down the Balkan cruise. And 1 here on Moscow. So that is it, folks. The communists have been purged from Moscow. Well, for now, anyway. And the Germans will bring up some tanks and also likely just follow it up with some boys here and then put their big build on here for this next turn. So that is where we are, folks, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. That's the end of the game. I don't see any point in continuing because they only need to hold it, I believe. I'll check here. But I believe they only have to hold it till the end of the round. Object of the game. If you're a Germany and occupy Great Britain, you hold it till your next turn, which is, yeah, the end of the round. And you must also control Germany, which will not be a problem. So, yeah. Actually, knowing that, then I'll just leave everything in here and put my build in there of $60 or something, 55 something, 58, 59, something like that will go into there. And there's no way 3 transports are going to be able to unload enough, and even these 2 American transports, no way. So I won't bore you by making you sit through a futile attack on Germany proper. But thanks so much for watching, folks. And as we always say here at the Hilltop Pillbox, hug your loved ones, thank your friends for playing, and may those dice be with you.